likelihood we will agree to continue the current payroll tax relief for another year, but we believe that it should be paid for.
What we're asking is that not millionaires, not billionaires, but people who make more than $1 million a year pay a tax on money they make over $1 million. I think it's fair. The American people think it's fair. The only people who don't think it's fair are the Republicans here in the Senate.
Well, maybe so, but it sure ain't free market capitalism. Welcome back to the Kudlow Report, everybody. Tax the rich, class warfare continues on Capitol Hill. You heard it. The Senate is expected to vote later this week on an extension of the temporary payroll tax cut. I say temporary. Let's talk to Senator Tom Coburn, great friend, Republican from Oklahoma. Senator Coburn, first up, just definitionally, this temporary tax cut, just like any rebate, whether it's a Jerry Ford rebate, a Jimmy Carter rebate, a Barack Obama rebate, a George W. Bush rebate, has no lasting incentive or economic growth effect. The unemployment rate is still 9% after we did this last year, and the economy in the first 3 quarters of the year just above 1%. How can anybody think this works?
Well, I don't think they think it works. They think it works politically. If the average person making $40,000 gets 2% benefit by not paying their side 2% out of the 3.6% that they pay, out of the 6.1% that they pay on Social Security, that's 2% more that they take home. And now it's not a matter of whether it's stimulative or not. It's a matter of politics of whether or not you actually will raise their taxes back to what they were year before last on Social Security.
But Senator Coburn, you of all people, I mean, you have crusaded and you know. You talk about the average person making $40,000, $50,000 a year. God bless them. They also know that these phony tax cuts blow another big hole in the budget deficit. In fact, this thing is about $110, $120 billion. That would be larger than the whole automatic spending cut from the so-called super committee in 2013. In 2013,
no, it's much bigger than that.
Well, that's
bigger.
That's what I'm saying. The payroll tax cut's 110, 120 billion, and that lousy super committee thing, with luck, it would be 65 or 70 billion. The average person knows that. This is a con game.
This is $330 billion of money that's not going to go to the Social Security Trust Fund. That's what it is annualized by the take. If you do what they're proposing to do, cut the employers to 3.5%, and cut the employee to 3.5%. So what you're doing is giving them both 3.1% to save. It's 6.2%. So you've cut it in half what their contributions would be. That's $340 billion. And that doesn't count unemployment extension, AMT tax relief. You're going to see this president and the Democrats put through $800 billion of more deficit between now and the end of the year.
Well, so
$800 billion.
All right, good for you. You got better numbers than I got. Good for you. So will Senate Republicans show that the emperor has no clothes on this proposal? This proposal will do more harm to the U.S. economy, which already has $15 trillion in debt and rising. It's about 100% of GDP, and we've done virtually nothing to stop it. Can you show that the emperor has no clothes?
No, well, in the Senate, we don't have the votes to do that. You know that. But in the House, hopefully they won't take up something like this. There's 2 points that ought to be made. If, in fact, you question whether or not it is incentive or just politics, whatever you do, you ought to pay for it. And the way you pay for it is the $350 billion worth of waste, or the $28 billion. They want to raise taxes on people with an adjusted gross income of $1 million. That's fine, but before you do that, why don't you take away the $30 billion a year that we're giving the people who make $1 million or more a year in terms of tax benefits that are markedly disproportional for them versus everybody else? So they have it all backwards. They want to continue to spend money. They don't want to cut spending, and the way they want to continue to spend money is to just tax more. Our problem is we could easily balance our budget just with common sense. Most people know that. except we have politics getting in the way of it. And we have a presidential election, and by dingy, we're going to see them push this thing, and we're going to see $800 billion more added to our kids. And by the way, Larry, we have a $2.6 trillion IOU to Social Security, and we're going to take $330 billion of money we don't have. We're going to have to borrow.
Right. This
we're going to have to borrow, but we'll never get credit for the
Why can't we have a sensible law? You know, you're talking tax reform, get rid of those deductions for the upper income, lower the rates, go out 10 years, figure out a reasonable plan, go after the spending reductions you want, go after the waste you want. In other words, the country yearns for leadership on pro-growth tax reform and entitlement reform and in spending reform. Instead, we're getting another goofy deficit, blow the hole wide open, stupid short-term plan, which frankly, nobody, I don't even think anybody believes this stuff anymore outside of the White House.
Well, I can guarantee you there's some in the Senate that don't happen to be on my side of the aisle that believe in it. But the fact is it's not good economic policy. What we have to do, you know, what's happened in Europe today? What happened with the ECB? Now the IMF's involved. That's $200 billion of our money. We're now on the hook. You will mark my words, the American taxpayer, with what is happening with the IMF, we will vote for it. I'll guarantee you Geithner and Obama will do it. You're going to suck another $200 billion out of this country to support what they're doing with the EFFC.
Oh, that's a good plan. No, that's direct IMF. We own 17% of it, if I'm not mistaken. That's a great point, Ms. Coburn. We're going to talk about that in the next segment, but I appreciate your perspective on all this. Senator Tom Coburn, Republican of Oklahoma. Thank you, sir. Coming up on Kudlow, I hear talk but no action. Speaking of the IMF, ECB, EFSF.